The world wasn't ready for this. The same people who once mocked India's patience, who thought New Delhi would forever play second fiddle to Washington, are now sitting in disbelief as India flips the entire game board. Because what just happened wasn't just a trade move. It was a statement, a loud, unapologetic message that says, we don't follow your script anymore. We write our own. You see, for decades, America played the role of the teacher, and everyone else was expected to be the student. They decided who was a friend, who was a foe, who could rise, and who needed to be put in their place. But India is not that student anymore. India is that one kid in class who started studying the teacher's notes and then wrote a better textbook. That's exactly what this deal represents. Not just numbers, but power, leverage, and the ability to bend global politics without firing a single bullet. This trade deal between India and China didn't happen in a vacuum. It came after years of tension, suspicion, and border disputes that had both nations on edge. Nobody could have imagined the two giants shaking hands on a deal of this magnitude. And yet here it is, the biggest trade agreement in Asia's modern history, a move that leaves Washington in complete disbelief. Because for the first time, the world's two most populous nations are saying we can handle business our own way. Now, let's make something clear. This isn't about love between New Delhi and Beijing. This America's unexpected reaction isn't about forgiveness or friendship. This is about strategy. It's about power. It's about knowing that sometimes your enemy today could be your business partner tomorrow if the price is right and the timing is perfect. And that's what makes this move so cold, so calculated, and so unstoppable. India didn't go into this deal emotionally. It went in intelligently. While everyone was busy playing checkers, India was setting up a chessboard. And in one move, it managed to tell the United States, you're not the only one who can make deals that shake the world. This trade pact wasn't a betrayal. It was evolution. Because in global politics, loyalty doesn't feed the people. Results do. Let's rewind a little. There was a time when India looked west for opportunity, when every major deal, every technological exchange, every defense partnership had to go through Washington's blessing. But something changed, something deep, subtle, and powerful. India started realizing it didn't need validation anymore. It didn't need to knock on anyone's door for permission to rise. And once that realization set in, everything else followed naturally. You can see the shift in every decision, from defense manufacturing to digital infrastructure, from energy partnerships to global trade corridors. India stopped asking, can we, and started saying, we will. This trade, why Modi chose China over the U.S. deal with China, is simply the latest expression of that confidence. It's not about choosing sides. It's about building balance. It's about reminding the world that India's allegiance is to its own progress and nothing else. Now, here's the thing that really burns Washington. India used the same playbook America once used. The strategy of economic dominance, the art of negotiation that ties countries together through profit, not promises. For years, America ruled through influence. But influence fades when others learn how to play the game better. India learned it, studied it, adapted, and now it's playing at a level where even the old masters are struggling to keep up. When the deal was signed, analysts in Washington called it a geopolitical earthquake because they knew exactly what it meant. The balance of trade is no longer tilting westward. It's swinging east. And the world's new center of gravity isn't New York or London. It's somewhere between Mumbai, Shanghai, and New Delhi. The Americans used to say whoever controls the trade routes controls the world. Well, India and China just decided to co-own the highway. That's why this move hurts so bad, because it wasn't supposed to happen. The U.S. spent decades trying to keep those two apart, playing one against the other, maintaining the illusion that they could never cooperate. But economics doesn't listen to old grudges. It listens to opportunity. And opportunity just changed direction. Let's be honest, this Steve Harvey breaks down the global power play wasn't revenge built in anger. This was revenge built in silence. While the world argued over politics, India built its manufacturing base, strengthened its digital economy, invested in renewable energy, and turned itself into an unstoppable machine. So when the chance came to ink a deal that would give it unmatched access to the largest market in the world, it didn't hesitate. It didn't need anyone's approval. It simply moved. And that move changed everything, because now for the first time, American companies are the ones scrambling to adjust. The same way Asian nations once had to adjust to U.S. trade policies, the tables have turned. You can feel the tremor in boardrooms across Washington and New York, the disbelief, the anxiety, the realization that the unthinkable has just become real. But here's what's fascinating. India didn't need to shout about it. There were no parades, no global press tours, no chest-thumping speeches. Just quiet execution, because that's what real power looks like. Silent, steady, and absolutely certain. The kind that doesn't beg for attention, but still gets it. Now imagine this. Two nations with over 2.8 billion people, one with unmatched technological prowess, and the other with manufacturing muscle, combining forces for economic dominance. The numbers alone make Washington nervous. The trade volumes, the currency exchange mechanisms, the supply chain partnerships, all designed to bypass the traditional Western systems. This isn't just a deal, it's a declaration of independence from the global order that America once built. And yet India hasn't turned hostile. It hasn't burned bridges. It's not isolating anyone. It's just saying we'll work with whoever respects us as equals. That's what true leadership looks like. It doesn't need to kneel. It just needs to negotiate. And when the deal benefits both sides, the world has no choice but to respect it. Let's not forget there was a time when the U.S. thought India, the revenge that reshaped diplomacy, couldn't pull off large-scale trade without its backing. They underestimated India's financial resilience, its technological capacity, and its diplomatic finesse. But that underestimation became fuel. Every sanctioned threat, every tariff discussion, every delayed deal, it all pushed India to create its own path. The beauty of this situation is how calm India remained through it all. No shouting matches, no retaliation speeches, just action, just development, just strategy. And when the time came, India didn't announce its arrival. It showed up at the negotiation table with an offer no one could ignore. That's the difference between noise and power. Noise demands to be heard. Power makes everyone listen. You can feel the irony here. Years ago, America's former leadership once boasted about making the biggest deals in history. They claimed to be masters of the art of negotiation. But today, it's India making that same claim, not with words, but with results. That's poetic justice on a global scale. This deal isn't just about trade goods. It's about energy, logistics, digital infrastructure, and financial systems that are rewriting global economics. It's about two giants connecting their markets through high-speed railways, new shipping corridors, and currency swaps that eliminate the dollar as middleman. That's where the real power lies. When nations can trade directly without depending on the old financial systems, and that's the moment America realized it had underestimated not just India's potential, but its patience. Because India waited, it didn't rush. It allowed itself to grow quietly, methodically, while others tried to corner it. And now when it moves like a storm. Slow to start, but unstoppable once it arrives. This isn't about anger or revenge in the emotional sense. It's about reclaiming respect. For too long, India's choices were measured by Western approval. But this deal says we decide what's best for us. That's not arrogance, that's sovereignty. What truly rattles Washington isn't the economic numbers, it's the symbolism. It's the message that alliances aren't permanent, that nations are driven by economic dominance begins interest, not emotions. It's the understanding that if America can sign billion-dollar deals with former adversaries for its benefit, then so can India. The double standard is gone. The playing field just got leveled. And let's talk about the global reaction. Europe's cautious. Russia's smiling. The Middle East is watching closely. Africa is hopeful because it sees new opportunities emerging. And the West, it's in shock because the one nation they thought would forever follow their lead has decided to lead on its own terms. That's what power looks like in the 21st century. Not domination, but direction. Not orders, but options. India has given the world options. A new model of partnership that's based on equality, not hierarchy. A model that says, let's grow together, not compete for scraps. The most remarkable part of all this is how ordinary citizens in both nations are reacting. They're not talking politics. They're talking prosperity. They see jobs, exports, investments, and growth. Because at the end of the day, that's what leadership should deliver. Not pride speeches, but progress. And make no mistake, this move isn't without risk. It's bold, it's unconventional, and it challenges old loyalties. But that's what transformation looks like. You can't shift history by playing it safe. You shift it by taking the kind of risks that others are too scared to take. So yes, this is India's revenge, but not the kind the world expected. It's not revenge that destroys, it's revenge that builds. It's the quiet satisfaction of knowing that those who once looked down now have to look up. It's the ultimate form of poetic justice when power shifts not through war, but through wisdom. And that's what makes this move legendary, because when the future historians look back, they won't remember the speeches or the outrage. They'll remember it as the moment India turned a corner, the moment Asia stood shoulder to shoulder, and the moment America realized the world no longer needed a single referee. That's the kind of revenge you don't announce. You just let the results speak, because the loudest power isn't the one that commands the stage. It's the one the world follows in silence. Power isn't about who shouts the loudest. It's about who others quietly follow. Because in the world of global politics, the real strength doesn't come from blinding spotlights or loud declarations. It comes from movement, influence, and the ability to change the direction of the wind without anyone realizing who caused the shift. And right now, India has become that silent storm the world didn't expect. You see, for years, the global narrative was dominated by noise. Every decision, every sanction, every alliance was broadcast like a performance on the world stage. Nations measured power by how many countries they could intimidate or how loud they could threaten. But the world has changed, the people have changed, the economy has changed. And how India turned America's pressure into power, understood that first. It realized that in the new era, the loudest power isn't the one making speeches. It's the one quietly changing realities while others are still talking. When the world wasn't watching, India was rebuilding itself piece by piece. It was developing its industries, modernizing its defense, expanding its tech empire, and connecting its markets to every corner of the world. No fireworks, no fanfare, just consistent progress. Because India learned long ago that power that grows in silence can never be taken away. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't need applause. It just needs direction. And look at where that direction has led. Today, when India speaks, even the loudest nations pause to listen. Not because of military threats or diplomatic pressure, but because India's voice carries the weight of credibility. That's what real power is. When people follow not out of fear, but out of respect, you can see this shift in every aspect of India's international relations. Whether it's trade deals, technology partnerships, or defense collaborations, India doesn't rush. It observes, it negotiates, it calculates. It's not in a hurry to be the loudest in the room. It's too focused on being the smartest, and that's why the world quietly aligns behind it, even those who once doubted it. Power used to be measured by who could command attention, but now it's measured by who sets the direction others end up following. When India signs a deal, nations pay attention. When India rejects a proposal, markets react. When India speaks about reform, policies start to shift globally. That's influence, subtle, powerful, and deeply rooted in credibility. People forget that silence is not weakness. It's control. It's the calm of someone who knows exactly where they're going. While everyone else is trying to figure out what just happened, that's been India's greatest strength. It's not chasing headlines, it's building history. And when you build history, the noise doesn't matter anymore. Think about it. Every great power in history eventually realized that shouting only lasts so long. The empires that roared eventually faded. But the ones that built quietly, who invested in their people, who turned discipline into destiny, those are the ones that endured. And that's what India is doing right now. It's not trying to scare anyone. It's trying to secure its future. And that makes it even more unstoppable. There's a saying, when lions walk, they don't need to roar. The footsteps alone command attention. That's the stage India's on right now. Every move it makes sends ripples across continents. And the beauty of it, it doesn't even have to explain itself anymore. The results speak louder than any announcement ever could. When the United States talks about global leadership, it does it through declarations and sanctions. When India talks about it, it does it through execution and example. That's the difference between talking power and living power. You can't fake consistency. China's silent admiration for India. You can't fake credibility. Those things take decades to build, and India has built them brick by brick. Look at the world today. The same countries that once doubted India's resilience are now seeking its partnership. Europe, once confident in its dominance, now sees India as the gateway to Asia. The Middle East, once cautious, now calls India a trusted ally. Even the superpowers who once dictated terms now find themselves negotiating on equal ground. That's not a coincidence. That's the result of silent, steady influence. Real power doesn't shout, it moves, and the movement is always toward value. India brings value, economic, cultural, technological, and human. Its population isn't just large, it's skilled, educated, and ambitious. Its economy isn't just growing, it's diversifying into every major sector the future depends on. AI, defense, renewable energy, space, digital payments. This is the foundation of a new kind of leadership. You can't intimidate a nation that doesn't rely on you anymore, and that's exactly what scares the old powers. For too long, the global economy was designed to keep certain nations dependent, but India broke that cycle. It developed alternatives, invested in self-reliance, and turned its vulnerabilities into strengths. Now it doesn't need to shout to get attention. Attention finds it naturally. When India launches a satellite, the world notices. When it mediates between nations, the world listens. When it develops indigenous defense systems, the world takes notes. That's the mark of influence. When your actions define the conversation, power isn't the ability to dominate others, it's the ability to make others move in your direction without them realizing they've done so. And that's exactly what's happening now. Look at the recent trade dynamics, digital policies, and global summits. India doesn't rush to take sides anymore. It creates its own center of gravity and everyone orbits around it. That's the evolution of global leadership. Not following noise, but leading through necessity. India's strategy is built on patience, the rarest form of power in a world obsessed with instant results. While others react, India responds. While others compete for headlines, India competes for results. It understands that true leadership is not about being first. It's about being right. And once you're right, time eventually works for you. What's fascinating is how the world underestimated the impact of humility and power, because India doesn't seek confrontation, it seeks cooperation. It doesn't declare enemies, it creates opportunities. And that's why even rival nations find it hard to oppose India for long. They may disagree with its methods, but they respect its consistency. And in geopolitics, respect is worth more than fear. There's another side to this silence. It's not just about diplomacy, it's cultural. India's civilization has always believed that truth doesn't need to be screamed. It reveals itself through endurance. That same philosophy runs through its politics today. Every nation has moments of pride, but India's pride comes from perseverance, and perseverance doesn't need noise. The global market's reaction just needs direction. The world's loudest powers spend billions on image management, on public relations, on narratives designed to maintain dominance. India doesn't have to. Its story writes itself. The world watches because it's inspired, not because it's instructed to. And that's the purest form of leadership. When people follow you, not because they have to, but because they want to. Every global meeting, every trade summit, every defense discussion now includes India at the core, and not because it demands that spot, because it earned it. Earning is always quieter than demanding, but infinitely more powerful. You can force someone to listen, but you can't force them to respect you. Respect comes from proof, and India has provided proof through performance, not promises. What's remarkable is how India handles pressure. When criticized, it doesn't lash out. When praised, it doesn't boast. It simply moves forward. That stability creates trust, and trust is the foundation of every alliance worth having. You can't buy trust with words. You build it with consistency, and that's what India has mastered. Even the younger generation is reflecting this new energy. They don't dream of leaving anymore. They dream of building. They want to create within India and for the world. That shift in mindset is the real revolution, not loud protests or grand speeches, but quiet determination from millions of minds moving in the same direction. That's collective power at its finest. When a nation like India channels the kind of quiet confidence, it changes the balance of global order because it shows the world that power isn't about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself. The more India grows in discipline, in innovation, in diplomacy, the less it needs to prove anything. That's the irony. The more you know your worth, the less you have to say it. Now let's talk about perception. For years, global analysts painted India as the potential superpower. They used that word potential as if to say, you're not there yet. But now that word has quietly disappeared. The potential has become performance. The doubt has become dominance. And it happened without fireworks, without noise, without begging for validation. It happened because India stayed the course while others changed theirs too often. And this quiet success is confusing for the old powers. They don't know how to react. How do you confront a nation that doesn't fight with words? How do you stop a movement that's not aggressive but inevitable? You can't. That's the beauty of it. Silence makes you unpredictable. And unpredictability is the ultimate power move. There's a spiritual layer to this too. The idea that true strength comes from control, not chaos. That's embedded deep in India's DNA. It's what allows it to balance relationships with conflicting powers, trading with one side, collaborating with another, and still maintaining its independence. That's not luck. That's discipline wrapped in wisdom. And let's be real. In today's world, noise is everywhere. Everyone wants attention. But attention, the message Modi sent to the world, is temporary. Respect is permanent. You can make headlines, but headlines fade. Hey, impact doesn't. India chose impact. It chose the long game, chose results that last beyond one leader, one government, or one decade. That's why no matter how the world shifts, India's trajectory keeps rising. Every global challenge, energy, technology, security eventually leads back to India in some form, because when you build quietly and deliver consistently, people naturally gravitate toward you. They want to be part of your success. They want to learn from your balance. That's influence without force. The highest form of power, even nations that once competed with India are beginning to align their interests with. Because the truth is, you can't outshout stability. You can't overpower composure, and you can't ignore progress that keeps delivering. That's why India doesn't need to prove its strength anymore. The world already recognizes it. Every speech, every summit, every handshake carries a subtle message. India doesn't want to dominate, it wants to define. It's not chasing leadership through intimidation, but through inspiration. And the most powerful leaders in history have always understood this. People will follow the one who makes them believe in something greater than themselves. India has become that source of belief for millions beyond its borders. Developing nations look to it as proof that you can rise without surrendering identity. Economies look to it as an example of how growth and culture can coexist. And that's why this silence feels so powerful, because it carries meaning, not just words. So while others are shouting about who leads the world, India quietly builds the future. Everyone else will have to live in. It's not trying to steal the spotlight. It's building the stage. It's setting the standard. It's redefining what it means to lead. Not power isn't shouted. It's respected in silence through fear, not through control, but through example. And that's when you realize real power doesn't come from volume. It comes from vision. It doesn't come from shouting. It comes from the world quietly following your steps, not because you ordered them to, but because your path makes sense. That's the kind of power that can't be taken away.